asking if after I show you how to do this, you can do it and get extra credit? No. So, first of all, I guess with every problem we're doing now, hold on, let me just make sure my gear is working here. All right, are we working in means or proportions? Like every problem we look at, that's proportions, right? I mean, it straight up says proportion in the problem, so hopefully you can figure that out. So I know I'm looking here, and my job is to, I want the margin of error to be 4%. So the margin of error, that's what this part over here is. It's the part that you add or subtract to the middle. So the margin of error, 1 prop z interval, so this guy here, this whole piece is my margin of error. If I were means, this piece would be my margin of error. So I'm just going to start with that. So I'm going to say z star times the square root of p hat times q hat over n equals my margin of error. That's just the definition. That's what it is. This part after the plus or minus sign is the margin of error. And then I'm going to start like plugging in what I can. And some stuff I can't, some stuff I can. Z star. Can you find Z star right now? Yeah, so the inverse norm 1.95 divided by 2. My calculator is currently being loaned out, so I need someone to tell me what that is. That's the 1.96, right? Alright, I'm going to leave, there's 3 things there. N is what we're looking for. P hat and Q hat, I'm going to come back in a second and put what those are. And what's margin of error? 0.04. So don't put 4 there. It's a percent, so if you're going to start working with the math with it, you got to make it into a decimal. So put 0.04. Now, I don't know what P hat and Q hat are. So a lot of times they'll tell you, a lot of times they won't. But typically, if you start doing a sample, like I'm going to interview people or whatever, I don't really know what P hat is. I can't really guess. Like, I want to know what percentage of people, I don't know, are Democrats or something. I can't just make a guess and say, oh, I think P hat's going to be 0.7. Sometimes you kind of know, sometimes you don't. If you don't, what number could you put for P hat that would minimize the possible error? We're going to put 0.5. So the most, what's the most wrong you could be if you guessed 0.5? 0.49, you know, like if the true P hat is 0.01, and you guess 0.5, like that's about as big as the error could be. But let's say the true P hat is 0.01, and you just decided for some reason to guess P equals 0.9. Isn't that a huge error now? So if I pick 0.5, I'm just kind of in the middle, and I'm playing the odds that that's the best guess I can make without any information. So if they don't tell you that P hat is 0.5, well then what's Q hat? 0.5. And then that is just an algebra problem that you have to solve. So I'll go through it with you. You don't want to round because these numbers get really small. And then you end up doing like, it comes out to 0.25 divided by a super small number. When you're dividing by a super small number, it's really sensitive. So like if you're off by a little bit, it's going to change the overall answer a lot. Try not to round. Try to do the whole thing in your calculator. So like if I'm doing this, my first step would be, I'm going to write down this. Where did I get 0.25 from? That's just multiplying those together. And then over here, I'm going to type in 0.04 divided by inverse norm 1.95 divided by 2. I'm not going to use the 1.96 because it's not quite as accurate. I'm going to have the calculator do that. So I need someone to tell me what that is. Can I get a confirmation of that? 0204? Okay. Keep that there. Because it's more than that, right? It's 0204, blah, blah, blah. There's stuff after it. So don't round. What's the next thing I would do to get n out from underneath the square root? Square everything. So just hit, like, this was your previous answer. Just hit square. And it'll square that answer. It'll square all the decimals out, so you're never rounding it. And that should come out to like an E thing. So like something e to the negative fourth or whatever. How are we doing there? What do we got? E negative 4. So like 4.7 E negative 4. 4.17 E negative 4. So remember what that means. You take that decimal and you go 1, 2, 3, 4 spots over, and you fill in with zeros. It doesn't really matter because we're not going to write, like what I'm writing isn't really what's being calculated because what's in your calculator is way more accurate than what I'm writing. Okay, now, there's a little algebra trick you can use here where, so let's look at like an easier example. Let's say 12 over x equals 2. Like forget this decimal stuff, just what's the answer here? What's x? 6, right? And you just kind of know, like 12 divided by what gives me 6. But there's this little trick you can use where I could just exchange those. Doesn't that give me what x is? Like you can flip-flop, top of one fraction, the bottom of the other fraction. So we're going to use that trick here. And n is going to equal 0.25 divided by answer. So you're going to hit 0.25 divided by second answer. It's going to take your previous answer. It's not going to round it. So here I'm going to put second answer here. And then that'll give you an n. What do we got for that n? 600? 600? It's like that's the cursor thing, yeah. Yeah, no, that shouldn't be there. So if you round it a little bit, your answer will be close-ish to 600, but not exact. That's okay because this will always be a multiple choice question, and they're always going to make them far apart. So did everybody get something that's like close to 600 but not exact? So like what'd you get? That's pretty dang. I mean you might get like 580 or 640 or so. Did everybody get something like that far away? 590. Okay. So if you round a little bit, it's gonna start 600.25 is correct because you guys all like left the decimals all in there, you know. But if you start rounding a little bit, it'll get like a little farther away. But that's okay. Your choices are not going to be like 599, 600, 601, 602. Your choices are going to be like 400, 600, 800, 1,000. So even if you're off by a little bit, you're just going to pick the one that's closest. And you'll be okay there. Questions? What'd you do here? Why'd you do this? Why are we doing algebra so early in the morning? Alright. Go ahead. Kill it. Can I erase it? So let me give you another one. So here's one where I don't have to guess p hat because they kind of guess it for me. So if I don't tell you the sample proportion, you use 0.5 every time. That's like the safest number you can use. But sometimes they'll tell you. So this 0.75 is what you're going to use for p hat because they're saying we think p hat is about 0.75. So same process, you just don't have to guess what p hat is on this one. I'll give you multiple choice, but I gotta do it first though. So those are your choices. So you might not get one of those exact. You should be pretty close. It's supposed to be the whole way around. First of all, and then we do I might have an answer. I want to make sure. I'm like, oh, second answer. I'll take your previous answer. Yes, the day. Really? You're not dumb in this situation. Think you alright? Thanks for swinging by. We go to a class on like stupid jokes to make. What? Did I miss daylight savings time? Oh. Alright. Don't go yet? Okay. Thank you for telling me. piece of property for size. We good?
Wait. I need a question.
So as long as you're good. There's extra credit, like, you figured out before I showed you. But now it's like, don't do it. Alright. Still waiting, okay. Alright, 5 please. Shh. So someone asked if it's going to be on the test. This will definitely be on the test. So if you start thinking through the test, there'll be a full one of these, like do the whole, I'm going to call it an essay. I don't know what, I mean, just make I don't know, it's an easy way to say it. The whole essay for this, and the whole essay for this, and then there'll be like probably 8 to 10 other questions. There will be one of these with proportions and one of these with means. Like, absolutely for sure there will be. So that'll at least be like 5 or 6 or probably 6 or 8 other questions. So you kind of know a lot of the stuff that's coming. So Z star, I'm doing inverse norm 1.9 divided by 2, and these are 1.64, right? Yeah. Okay. What is P hat? 0.75. What is Q hat? 0.25 over N, and then equals 0.03. So then I'm going to multiply I think that's 0.1875, right? Over N equals, and I'm just going to type 0.03 divided by inverse norm 1.9 divided by 2. So I'm making the calculator do all of it, like don't round, carry out everything. What does this come out to approximately? Do other people agree with that? Something around there, okay. So then what? Square both sides, so 0.1875 over N equals something. I don't know what that is. And then what do I do with the something in the end? I flip-flop them. So N is going to be 0.1875 divided by, and this is where I'm hitting second answer. To just tell the calculator, grab the previous answer, don't round it, put it in there. And I got I think I got 560 when I did it. Right around there. So you should be around 560. If you round it a little, you might be a little different, but. How many had B? Questions? Shh. 0.0, doing, so if I look at this piece of it, I'm trying to get like this by itself, so I'm dividing both sides by 1.64. Only I'm trying to be more precise by not using 1.64 by typing the inverse norm. Did you get something different there? Or did you just like carry it through in your calculator?
I probably just did it.
Okay. What do you want?
So I was originally asleep for
30 seconds. Any other questions? Alright, I want you to do one more. I'm gonna just change it one more time.
When I'm on experiment,
Do that. Hurry up. Time's ticking.
Sorry.
Why did you just yell sorry? this up. What's 3.5% as a decimal? Don't say 0.35. 0.035. One day we're going to go through it with the wheel. No. Finished out, I'm saying. There's your options. It's probably the hardest math problem we do like the entire an AP math class. Seems to be for some people. So then this part still. So square it. That's pretty close. Is that down to 1? So yeah, square it, and then you do that like exchange thing.
So unnecessary.
Alright, calm down.
Be better.
I don't know. Hold on.
Speed around 1 minute.
Just calculate.
I know. That's so much pressure. That's 1,060. I didn't give you the right option. I'm sorry. It's 1,060.
We know. We know.
How many had that? Everybody except for me? Why?
I did it.